I'm Breg Butler. A couple of days ago, a self-story writing class suggested that we write a poem. So I put one together, and here it is. It's called Up, Up and Away by Breg Butler. Up, up and away. That's what Superman used to say as he soared on high and passed from view across the sky. Well, I tried that in my youth. The result was a fall and a broken tooth. So then I joined the Air Force Cadet Corps and became a fighter pilot, of course. As a teen, I fell in love with the Super Sabre's intake. I copied it on a clay model on a sleek sports car I did make. Then I set the car on the shelf and said, I guess that's it for me. Never dreaming that for 12 years my chinning bar that intake would be. My first gig was the 461st Deadly Jesters at Hahn. In the 80s, chasing MiGs back and forth. Then off to the 53rd at Ramstein for boring Victor alert, but much, much nicer gigs. 'Twas there on old 950 I first put my name. No one else would take her due to her very negative fame. For 21 years I zoomed and thundered in F-84F, A-7D, and mostly in the 100. From Cannon sat Victor alert with the bomb. Skip dived and strafed in Vietnam. 'Twas there I jumped from my flaming steed. They called it ground fire, but I know it was a hot air bleed. You know, North American built 2,300 of the Hun. Well, my wingman that night was in just one, my old 950. Very small world. After some 10 years of Air Force, I got lonely. Found and married sweet Lorraine, who sure is a honey. Details of our courtship make for great laughs at a party. Raised 3 great kids named Bill, Christy, and Scotty. Spent several years at Luke and DM teaching the new guys how to apply their fighter tactics up in the Arizona skies. And in the process got wrapped up in a thing called ISD. If you want to know more about that, you'll have to ask me. But then to a Langley desk they did assign me. I thought to myself, how can this be? The world's greatest fighter pilot not up in the sky? So at 21 years, I turned in my chute and said to the Air Force, goodbye. For the next 20-some years, I did training design for the Air Force and the Navy in a favorite place of mine. That would be San Diego, where the sun does usually shine. Worked for Logicon and Northrop, the employers of mine. Before too long, I said to myself, do you really want to sit here on the shelf? Or would you rather soar high again? To which I replied, yes, but how and when? Then I heard of a guy named Van Gruzen, who made airplane kits that many were using. So my garage became an airplane factory with much drilling and riveting and other racketry. In a mere 8 years, my first takeoff was rolling. Up, up and away, o'er the clouds I was going. You could hear me exclaim as I zoomed out of sight. Loops, rolls, and spins in the new 950 are such a delight. So now, when terra firma gets boring, and to the skies I return, and in 950 go soaring. And when comes the day a medical certificate I can't rate, I can look back and say, thank God, it sure was great. I'm going to tell the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sweet.
Back in 1960, when I was stationed at Ramstein in the 53rd TAC Fighter Squadron, we had about 30 pilots and about 24 airplanes. So you had to be a little senior in rank to get your name on the side of an airplane. And an airplane came available. It was tail number 950. But nobody would take it because it was kind of a jinxed airplane. Little things would happen with it, but nothing serious, but it just didn't have a good reputation. So I said, what the heck, I'll take it. Otherwise, I'll never get my name on it. So I did, and flew it whenever the schedule was compatible. So about 8 years later, I was in Vietnam at Phan Rang, and flying the D model. Those had been C model, F-100Cs. And the National Guard out of Denver got activated and sent to Phan Rang. And they had a lot of experience, but they still had to fly one time on our wing in the daytime and once at night. So I got put on nighttime alert with a guard airplane on my wing. I had an F-100D and he had an F-100C. That's what the guard had, the C model. Anyway, we got scrambled just about sunset, and we rolled separately. I was lead, and as I'm climbing out, and the wingman is joining me, he tells me that there's fuel venting from the saddleback in the back of the airplane behind the cockpit. Well, there is no fuel in that area. What he saw was smoke. He was accustomed, we were all accustomed to see fuel venting, and it looks like white smoke. And in this case, it was truly white smoke. The airplane was on fire. It was a bleed air leak, although they called it ground fire on takeoff. And before long, it rolled inverted all by itself. I put in all the rudder and aileron. I couldn't get it right side up. All the lights were blinking and the gauges were going every which way. So I reached down, pulled up the armrests and triggers, and went tumbling at about 350 knots through space. And the chute opened and everything worked well. I did the cut forward and looked down to see where I might go, and I saw a clearing off in the distance. Otherwise, it was all jungle below me. Tried to head for the clearing, not a chance. So, pulled down the visor, made sure my gloves are on, crossed my legs, pulled the dinghy, which was something I shouldn't have done because I never went through jungle survival school, and for the 10 years or so I've been flying the 100 at that point. First thing you were supposed to do when you got in the chute was to pull the dinghy. So the distance from the dinghy to me is about 15 feet. From me to the chute is about 25 feet. So as you hit the trees, what happens is the dinghy hangs up in the trees, you keep falling, the chute hasn't reached the trees yet, and you end up hanging upside down in the trees by your rump. With no idea in the darkness of how far above the ground I was, I just kind of gritted my teeth and disconnected the seat pack completely and hit the ground as if I'd stepped off about a 3-inch platform. I was that close to the ground. I stood up, used my walkie-talkie, which I'd been using to talk to the airplane that was circling me, and before too long, a chopper from the base came along, dropped the tree penetrator, hit me right on the helmet. That's how accurate it was. I jumped on and I was back at the base having a beer before my wingman ever landed. But the unique thing about it is that my wingman, North America made 2,300 F-100s, and my wingman was flying my old airplane 950 from 8 years before in Germany. Out of the 2,300 airplanes that were built, he happened to be in my old airplane 950. So now I fly a new 950 because I built an RV6 and I registered it with a tail number of 950 and painted it up with the same paint scheme on it that the 950 had at Ramstein.